everyone, it's Keely here for Soy and Shea, and thank you so much for joining me for today's video where I'm doing one of the Patreon's design challenges. Now this time it is not a soap. When I actually set this design challenge for my patrons, it was at a point where I actually didn't need to make any soaps. I had to be a little bit more creative so that they still got their benefits. And for this month, I said to them to name a fruit or a vegetable that they would like to see me use. And then depending what came out would depend upon what I actually did. Now I put all the suggestions into a soapy jug, and the one I drew out came from Jan, who runs Champagne Soapery here in Australia. And I actually got to meet Jan when I went to the Australian Candle and Soaping Conference, and she is absolutely lovely, as was everyone that I met down there. I have left her business details down in the description box so you can go and check her out, but Jan suggested avocado. Now immediately I thought avocado oil, avocado puree and that sort of thing. I thought, I don't want avocado puree because I don't want to make a soap, and puree is not ideal to put into Bath and Body products because of contamination sort of things. Now I did think avocado oil, but the whole idea of these design challenges for me is to actually step outside of that comfort zone and try something new. And so I always hope that there'll be something really new in the suggestions. So looking at avocado, I decided to see if I could source some avocado butter. Now that might be easy in some of the countries that you are in, but avocado butter proved to be really hard to actually source here in Australia. And then when I was able to find it, it was trying to find the best possible price, because I paid more for 250 grams of the avocado butter than I would pay for a kilo of many of my other butters and oils. But I decided I really wanted to have a go and see if it was actually worth the money. Now I did eventually find a couple of places that had it, but I'm really picky when I order my my ingredients for my products. One of the things I actually do look for is a business which has a high volume of turnover of their own ingredients. So when it comes to ordering those sort of specialty ones from very small businesses, I'm sorry to say I'm very wary, because often I've done that in the past and I've ended up with an ingredient that might only have a month left on its expiry date, and then it's no good to me. So I do tend to only order those sort of raw ingredients from bigger companies. So I ended up going with the Skin Science company. They do actually offer free postage, which was one of the things that kind of got me into them. But you do have to be aware that that free postage is not really free, it's built into the price of the goods. So if you're ordering any more than one item from them, you do actually end up paying for your shipping at least twice if you're ordering 2 products, 3 times if you're ordering 3 products. So they can be expensive if you're ordering more than one specialty item. But I decided to go with these guys because I knew they would have a relatively high turnover, so the product should be nice and fresh, and because when it included the shipping, it was actually cheaper than a couple of the other places. So I got this one in, and then it was next I had to decide what to do with it. Now at the start of the year, I did ask my patrons what sort of recipes that they would like to see come out, and they put in all their suggestions. And then in January, I sat down and I started writing out basic formulas for all these products that they wanted to, all these recipes that they wanted to see, and I've been slowly testing them throughout the year. And one of them was for a hair mask, and I've been testing my hair mask with a few other oils, and I decided to try it with this avocado butter because avocado oil is brilliant for the hair. So I thought I'd try it in that. So that's what we're going to go and do today. We're going to go and make a hair mask using this avocado butter. Let's go. Okay, so I've got my recipe all printed up, and as when I make my moisturizers, I've split it up into 3 phases. So we've got our water phase, what essentially is our oil phase, and then the cool down phase where we're going to add in all the extra hair loving ingredients. So I'm going to start off by measuring out that water phase first. So I'm going to tear out my scales, and there are links in the description box for the scales that I use for all of my making. And the first thing I'm going to weigh out is my distilled water. Okay, so now that I have got my water measured out, I'm going to add in some panthenol or some vitamin B5. Hair absolutely thrives on this vitamin, so it goes into all of my shampoo and conditioner bars. And I'm also going to add in this other ingredient. I've actually got in a new bottle. I was meant to open this one up before starting the video but forgot. This is called cetrimonium chloride, and it is a cationic surfactant, and it's often used in hair products as a conditioning agent, and it stops all the anti-static, or stops that hair frizz and things like that. It also, being a surfactant, it does add that sort of foaming quality that so many people believe should be in a conditioner. When you use the solid conditioner bars, they often don't foam, and it really confuses people because this is what the big companies have led us to believe. This should actually help to add in that tiny little bit of illusion of that sort of foam, and I've added it into the water phase because it's water soluble. So we've got all of our heat safe water soluble ingredients in there, so it's time to get it covered up so we don't lose any of it through evaporation. Once I get my items covered up, I tear my scales out and I put my container back on, and I take note of what that number is. Now, if I've covered it up tight enough, I shouldn't actually lose any liquid, but in case I do, I know exactly how much water to add in. I'm going to go and put this into my bain-marie. Now the next thing I'm going to work on is that oil phase, and this is where we're going to be putting in our emulsifier and our oils and butters. Now generally when you're looking at conditioners, you need those conditioning emulsifiers, which is why I've got some BTMS 50. Now when you are using BTMS 50, it is known as a cationic emulsifier, so you have to be careful not to add any anionic products into it. And I know all these sound really scary terms, but it's something that you do learn the more that you actually formulate. And basically it's talking about the charges of our ingredients. So being cationic, that means this actually has a positive charge, and we want to avoid putting anything in that has a negative charge. That includes things like stearic acid if we're looking at waxes, and also with our surfactants we don't want to be using things like sodium cocoa sulfate. What will happen is if you put a positive and a negative into the same formula, it may blend for a short period of time, but as it sits there, eventually it's going to split out. So you'll end up with that heavy sort of sludge at the bottom and then a liquid up at the top. So to help actually thicken this formula and avoid something like stearic acid, I'm going to be using ceteryl alcohol, which is a non-ionic emulsifier, or it's not actually an emulsifier, it's part of an emulsifying system that can add thickness to a formula. But being non-ionic, it actually doesn't have a charge at all, so it's not going to affect it. So let's get that in here. So let's tear out our scales and we will add in our ceteryl alcohol. And as I said, this is just to add a little bit of viscosity to the product, make it a little bit more stable as well. Just having in that BTMS 50 by itself is not enough to make a really stable emulsion. So we've got that ceteryl alcohol, and now I'm going to add in our butters and oils. So the first one I'm actually going to add in is a little bit of mango butter. I'm also going to add in some extra virgin olive oil, which is another oil that our hair loves. I'll do it from this side so I can see my scale. And of course we're going to add in our avocado butter. And I was really surprised when I opened this up. I don't know what I was really expecting, but it basically looks like some sort of, I'm going to say it looks like a petroleum jelly. It's not, but that's what it kind of reminds me of. It's quite soft. It's not hard like your other vegetable and fruit butters. It's a very interesting texture. It is generally made up by using something like, in this case, we would have some avocado oil, and then it has some hydrogenated oils in it as well to give it this thicker consistency. So I'm going to pop that in there. We need just a little bit more. And then to help protect all of those oils and butters that are in there, I am going to add in just a touch of vitamin E as an antioxidant. And now it's time to get this onto the heat and get it melted down, and then we'll be back to mix it all together. Okay, so this has come up to temperature now. I'm just going to remove them out, wipe off that excess water just to stop any contamination. Just give that a bit of a swirl, take down the measurement. We are sitting at about 76 degrees Celsius, which is 170 Fahrenheit. So it's a really good temperature to make sure that everything combines. Turn that one off at the wall. Wipe that off. Now, before I actually add my water in, I'm just going to pop it onto my scale and make sure I've still got the same number on the top here, which I do. So it is time now to actually get these blended together. Now this little glass is hotter than normal, so I'm going to take that one off of there. I'm going to wrap my cloth around it so I can hold on to it, and I'm going to pour it into my oils and waxes because it's so much easier to clean this jar of water than it is to try and clean a jar that's just got oil and wax in it. Now I've done that, I'm going to grab my immersion blender, and you do need an immersion blender to blend your oils and your emulsifier, and we're going to give it a good pulse. Now I'm only pulsing it because I have got a relatively small jar, and if I go too hard and fast it's just gonna go up everywhere. But I gave that a few pulses. It's quite a small batch, so about 30 seconds was enough. Gonna let it sit here for a couple of minutes, and then I'll come back and give it another little bit of a blend as it all settles down. And in between I am going to rest that one in there to keep it nice and clean, and I'm going to cover this one back up so we don't get any evaporation while this is cooling. Okay, so this has been sitting and cooling now, and it's time to add in all the extra additives. It is starting to thicken up nicely. So let's put these extra ingredients in. I'm going to grab my smaller scales for this because these are all done in smaller amounts. Makes it a bit easier. I've got some hydrolyzed oat protein to go in here, as well as some green coffee extract. I'm also going to be adding in a little bit of nettle extract as well. Now all of these are known to promote hair growth, to stimulate the sort of the follicles on the head to produce stronger hair, and just nice shine as well. So that's why all of these are going in. When I do actually release this recipe over on Patreon, I will go through a little bit more about why I chose certain extracts and what alternatives can actually be added in. Let's get that to tear out again. Perfect. I'll also be adding in my preservative as well because this is a water-based product. Alright, so there's all of those. Let's grab our preservative here. So I've just added in some of my essential oil blend that I've made up, which I actually call Sunshine. It is full of lots of citrus-based essential oils, but when I sell it in my products, I actually call it Citrus Burst instead, and that is a new scent coming out in my shampoo and conditioner bars too. So I'm going to give this a really good mix. I'm going to have to, oh no, it's coming together. It's got a few little lumps in, so I'm giving it a really, really good mix here. Alright, so that is looking really nice in there. Really pleased with it. Smells absolutely amazing. I am going to cover this back up because again it is still warm enough that it's going to lose any of the water out of it if I don't. So I'm going to cover it up. I'm going to leave it sit here overnight until it is completely cooled down, and tomorrow we will pop it into a pot. Okay, so it is the next morning. This is ready to start potting up because it is nice and cool. You can see we've got a lovely thick consistency in there. And this is what it is looking like. It is so lovely and creamy. So let's get it into my jar. Now this jar will be going off to Jan so she can have a try of it. So let's fill this one up. And in here, I will eventually be bringing the hair mask out into my range of products, but it will probably have a few different oils in here. Now normally I would actually get my piping bag and pipe this in, but I'm just trying to do this quickly before I open the shop up. Okay, I was just weighing it to make sure I had the right weight in here, and there it is. It is all done. It looks absolutely lovely, and I've got just enough to put into a container to take home for me. Now you really don't need a lot of this hair mask, just a little bit, depending upon how long your hair is, but just a little bit will actually go a really long way with this one. Okay, so now that we've got that in there, let's get a label on so that Jan knows exactly what it is when I send it out to her. And there it is. There is our hair mask all potted up and ready to go out. So there is the hair mask recipe. Now I'm going to be open and honest and say that when it comes to the avocado butter, do I think it's worth it? Not really. I think it really is a bit of a gimmick. I don't think avocado butter really has any more benefits than what straight up avocado oil has. Yes, it's got that added texture, but you can quite easily add a little bit more texture into your products by adding things like xanthan gum. I also actually think that this avocado butter is particularly expensive, and it pushes the price of these products up without giving it any extra benefit than what using straight up avocado oil would have added to this product. So when these products come out onto my shelf, I will be adjusting the oils that go in here so we can actually also make it more affordable. Now just to give you an idea, this total recipe had 5% avocado butter in it, and it cost me over $1 to actually put that avocado butter in here, whereas I had other ingredients which sat at about 20% of the recipe that were costing me a lot less than 50 cents to put into this single jar. So do I actually think it's worth the money? Not really. It doesn't actually add any extra benefits than what something like pure avocado oil can add into it. If I'm going to put in expensive ingredients, it's going to be things like argan oil, which is going to offer a whole new quality into the product. However, if you can get avocado butter cheaply where you are, it does make a lovely product as well. So, but for me personally, once that bag has gone, it'll probably only be made for special occasions for my family, maybe myself. But once it's gone, I probably won't get any more of it in, but it certainly has been fun to have a play with it and try something new. I always like to try new ingredients because sometimes I actually have thought, no, I don't really want an ingredient. I have a play with it and then I absolutely love it. That was the case with argan oil when I was actually generously sent a 250ml sample bottle from New Directions a few years ago. Fell in love with the oil, and now I actually buy it on a regular basis. But in terms of the avocado butter, that's not going to be one of them. Now this is a recipe that my patrons have been asking me for, and it will come out onto Patreon. I've actually got two recipes that I have got in mind to bring out to them. One was this hair mask and another is a vegan lip balm. So I've actually put it out on a poll to see what they'd like to see out for October's recipe, and at the moment the hair mask recipe is winning. The recipe for this will likely come out in October, and I will have the avocado butter version and then the version with the oils to make a more reasonably priced product. Now for me with Patreon, yes, I do share recipes, but that is not all that Patreon is about. You can have 10, 15, 20 fantastic recipes, but if you don't know how to sell your product, you don't know how to grow your business, or don't even know the theories behind formulating so you can actually tweak recipes that you do have, none of that is worth anything. And that is what I actually hope to teach through Patreon, is to show you how to formulate if you join at the $10 level, so you too can create your own products without relying on other people to do them for you. And that, for me, is more important than those recipes that I do share over on Patreon. If you do decide to come and join, just be warned, it is not all about the recipes. Now I do hope that you have enjoyed coming along as I made this hair mask and had a play with that avocado butter. If you did, why not leave me a thumbs up and any comments down below. And until the next video comes out, I hope you have a good one, and I will see you then. Bye.